Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. I know it's bright and early. We do have a quorum, so I want to go ahead and roll on with the meeting this morning. I'm going to ask Chairman Hamilton, would you mind doing an invocation for us?
President, Father, we're so thankful to be here this glorious Friday. Just continue to guide us and direct us and be food for us, Lord. Just be with the men and women that protect us and allow us freedom that we use today. Just guide us all that we do. We ask this thing in Christ's name.
Amen. Well, we have one bill before us today, and it's going to be the committee sub for House Bill 372. And Floor Leader Coomer is here to present the bill. Mr. Leader, glad to have you with us, and the mic is on and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is should be a short presentation. This is the Hope Grant GPA change bill, and it was amended in committee. It had two parts of the bill, Section 1 and Section 2. Section 2 has been removed, so we're only talking about Section 1 of the bill. And that part of the bill simply changes the GPA requirement for Hope grants, which is the technical college system portion of the Hope program, changing that GPA requirement from 3.0 back to 2.0, which is what the original requirement was before we enacted the changes in 2011 designed to save the broader Hope program. The reason for the change is in response to a larger than expected decrease in the number of folks enrolled in the technical college programs and receiving the Hope grant. We expect that we'll have anywhere from 3,500 to 9,000 students affected by this change, and the anticipated cost is between $5 million and $8 million to the lottery funds. In the first 6 months of this year, we've had an increase in lottery deposits of $32 million, greater than we had in the first 6 months of last year. This represents a 0.2% change in the overall budget for lottery expenses, and it does not affect any general revenue change.
So I'm taking it that's all you got to say about that?
I'm just going to answer any questions you have.
Chairman Rice, let me get your mic on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate the opportunity to ask a question too. This is a good bill. Representative, I appreciate it. I just wondered, normally in a lot of these bills where we reduce the requirement on the grade point average, we also, and for the purposes you stated, which are low attendance at these schools right now, I think that's the main purpose you stated, did you not?
That's one of the reasons, yes, sir.
Okay. Generally, we perceive the possibility of an increase in enrollment, and we cap or we time out the reduction and then reauthorize later on, depending upon what the enrollment's looking like. I don't think this bill does that, and I'm wondering if you thought about that and what your answer is.
Well, what we're doing is reverting back to the original GPA. So we do have some experience at that level to indicate to us what we anticipate. It's a little better than just kind of guesswork that we do in some of these bills. Unfortunately, we have to do that. And the numbers are pretty solid for us in terms of, we have a fairly stable population rate and a fairly stable enrollment rate. The technical college system enrollment decreased at a greater rate than the university system enrollment. So we have some factors in there that indicate to us what we believe will be some pretty solid projected numbers. Of course, if the numbers are greater than we anticipate and we have a problem with the funding, we'll be back next year to fix that.
Chairman Jay Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Friendly question. The 0.2% that you said, what do you know dollar-wise what that would cost?
It's between $5 and $8 million.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Chairman Maxwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Leader,
Yes, sir.
it's not true that a lot of these students are non-traditional students. They're holding jobs, their families, they have families that are going back to try to better themselves. They're not your traditional students that are, able to go full-time, and it's sometimes a little harder for them to maintain the GPA that's necessary to continue their program here. I applaud this bill. I think it's going to be great for the state and going to help us get people out that's going to be able to improve the workforce in the appropriate time. Mr. Chairman, I'll be ready to make a motion.
Thank you, Chairman. That's correct.
Chairman Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the floor leader, I see you've gone from 3.0 to 2.0, and I know that's because that's where it was previously. I guess I talked to some students that were in here from the technical college on the day they came up to visit with all of us. I'm sure you did as well. And several of them mentioned what Chairman Maxwell said about the non-traditional difficulty. And I just wonder if going forward, even as this bill moves forward and it passes, that the governor's office would continue to work toward innovative ways to maybe even making the grade point average differ or incentivize the students into areas and careers that we need in Georgia, if that makes sense. If there are areas where we're trying to get students to go there and non-traditional students want to be there and it's harder for them to get in, it could be the grade point average, it could be funding. I think that would answer some of the questions that they asked me that I quite frankly didn't have an answer for.
Sure. I think that's an excellent concept. And one of the things that sets TCSG apart from other technical college systems in the country is their ability to really be efficient and responsive to the needs of the industry community and to provide those really specific training programs that help individual students and individual communities respond to the community needs as far as employment. And certainly Commissioner Jackson has worked with the board to allow that kind of flexibility to continue. So we hope that will continue.
Chairman Setzler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the floor leader, two questions if I could. First, I'm concerned, and I just share this, and I don't know exactly where I am on this issue. I have had some constituents approach me on it. When we talk about a 2.0 grade point average, we ask ourselves as a state, what are we buying? What is our tax dollar going towards? What level of achievement and competency are we getting out of a student? 2.1 grade point average means that you make more B's than you do D's. And I wrestle with, and I understand the issue of non-traditional students. My experience is very often non-traditional students sometimes do better than traditional students just because of the level of maturity and the intensity and so forth. I just share that with you parenthetically as we consider this as a policy direction. My direct question to you is, has that been considered? What level of mastery are we getting people who are going to put out in the world implementing the things we teach them? And then secondly, what was the reasoning in going to 3.0 before? I mean, presumably.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Sorry, what was the reasoning in going to 3.0 before? Was there it was clearly part of the larger package, but that had to be based on some desired outcome from where we came from before.
Thank you for the questions. First of all, it's important to distinguish between the HOPE grant program for the technical colleges and the HOPE scholarship program for the university system. The HOPE grant program it's a grant. It's not really generally conceived as a program designed to reward outstanding student achievement in the way that a scholarship program would be. That said, we don't want to just be handing out money to people who aren't going to take that grant seriously and apply themselves in school. The reason we increased the GPA to 3.0 was, frankly, so that we could afford to keep the program alive. You were here in 2011, and I know you and other members in the room recall the discussions we had about that and a lot of debate about how we could do that. And frankly, it was a painful process. So it's almost a relief to be able to revert back to the prior number based on the current revenue stream available or current stream financing available through the lottery program. So that was, I think that answers the first question. And the second question was, help me remember that.
It was really directed towards, what level of mastery is someone that maintains a 2.0 GPA in an important
technical discipline where mastery really is going to matter because they're going to implement this, you know, in their profession. Are we confident that we have a level of mastery that's in keeping with the state dollars we're putting into these programs?
Right. One of the interesting things about the technical college system of Georgia is, and I believe it was Representative Evans who used the word warranty. They kind of have a warranty program where if a person graduates from one of our programs and they get in the workforce and they can't perform, the technical college system will bring them back in, retrain them, and get them to the point that their performance is acceptable to the employer. So to the extent that we may be producing a student or graduating a student who is not proficient in a particular area of skill, they're going to come back and get that training again, and they're going to, the technical college system is very adamant that they're going to produce students who can do the job they're trained to do. So I understand that concern.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Next is a young lady that's done a lot of work on this subject, so Representative Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And if it's okay, I just wanted to also respond a little bit to Chairman Setzler's question. Leader Coomer mentioned the warranty program, which is what I call it, that if a graduate gets out into the workforce and finds that they need more skills, they can go back to the school system and get that. It's important to know that the number of students who actually have to take advantage of that warranty program is minuscule, and that there is a 94% job placement for our technical school graduates. So your question to what are we paying for? We are paying for an exceptional product coming out of our technical colleges. And it's also important to note that since we know that prior to 2011, that 2.0 was the threshold, if you look at the workforce that was coming out of the technical colleges from the mid-90s when the HOPE program was enacted through 2011, those same numbers, 94% placement, minuscule people having to come back, hold true. So we know that when the 2.0 is the average that we are setting for the HOPE grant, we are having an exceptional product. We don't even have to guess.
Representative Glanton. Butch, let him try yours. Evidently something wrong with that one.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Leader. I commend you and the Governor's office for bringing this legislation, and this is a friendly question. In regards to the HOPE Scholarship, with the exception to people who have served in the military, there's a 7-year, I believe, term that they have to actually go back in and get the HOPE Scholarship. Is this also the 7 years requirement there for the HOPE grant?
I'm not familiar with the 7-year requirement for the HOPE grant. This bill wouldn't change anything in that respect, so whatever the other requirements are, they'll remain in place. The only thing this will do is change the GPA requirement.
Okay, I just thought I read that somewhere in the HOPE Scholarship language, but I do know that these students will tend to be older students that have been out of school longer, so I just wanted to make sure this did not impact them in a negative way. Thank you.
Okay, I show no further questions. At this point, we'll entertain a motion. Numerous moves and seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. House Bill 372, substitute LC 343805S receives a due pass recommendation from the committee, and we are adjourned.